In this video, we'll discuss personality from a cultural perspective. By the end of the video, you should understand the difference between a collectivist and individualistic culture, as well as how people from those cultures would describe their personalities. Before we talk about cultural influences, let's define what we're talking about. What is culture? So culture is a program of shared rules that governs the behavior of members of a community or society. In other words, it is a set of these shared rules, these values, beliefs, attitudes, and they're shared by members of a given community or society. Now, an individualistic culture is one where the self is regarded as autonomous. In an individualistic culture, individual goals are going to be prized above all others. If it didn't just dawn on you, America is definitely an individualistic culture. Now, collectivist cultures, on the other hand, view the self as embedded into their relationships, into their social connections. So in a collectivist culture, the group needs and wishes and goals are prized above the individual wishes and goals. So in an individualistic culture, the individual is what is important. And in a collectivist culture, it is the group, what you belong to, that's more important than the individual. So the group of the good is valued over the individual in a collectivist culture. And a lot of Asian cultures are considered collectivist. So here's just a table kind of defining the two in a different way. So in individualistic culture, we see the self as autonomous, independent of the groups or social communities you belong to, gives priority to the individual, to personal goals. An individualistic culture is going to value independence, leadership, achievement, again, give more weight to an individual's attitudes and preferences than to group norms in order to explain behavior and personality. They're going to attend to the benefits and costs of relationship. If a cost exceeds the advantage, a person is likely to drop the relationship. Now, in a collectivist culture, they're going to define the self as part of the group. They're going to give priority to the needs and goals of the group. They value group harmony. They want to make that group work. There's duty, obligation, security in groups. They're going to give more weight to group norms than individual attitudes when they're explaining behavior or their own personality. And they attend to the needs of the group members. If a relationship is beneficial to the group but costly to the individual's still likely to stay in that relationship. So in an individualistic culture, an individual is going to describe themselves in terms of personality traits, their strengths, what they like to do, what's their occupation, what are their talents, how do they stand out. In a collectivist culture, an individual would describe themselves in terms of the groups that they belong to, their role within those groups, how they fit in, how they contribute to those groups. And this is just a map to kind of show you where individualistic versus collectivist cultures are. So this was done in a survey with more than 100,000 IBM employees worldwide. They asked questions about 14 work goal questions and estimated the amount of individualism versus collectivism for about 50 nations. So Hofstede defined individualistic societies as those in which the ties between individuals are loose and everyone is expected to look after him or herself or his or her immediate family. Contrary, collectivism was attributed to societies in which people from birth onwards are integrated into strong, cohesive in-groups, which throughout a person's lifetime continue to protect them in exchange for unquestioning loyalty. And so this was something that was published in 1991. So you can see here, red being a very individualistic culture, Australia as well. Green is going to represent more collectivist cultures.